According to the media, Donald Trump's speech on trade was really a piece of garbage. I mean that literally. Everybody in the press and on Twitter was talking about the backdrop, which was literally garbage. Whoever staged this thing probably should be looking for a new job. But the content of the speech was not only not garbage, it actually, I think, brought together a lot of things that Trump has been talking about, a very salient issue for him. I mean, you've heard him rail against China and bad trade deals all year. But now he has focused it in a way that he's trying to put Hillary Clinton on the defensive over the Trans-Pacific Partnership and saying she should just completely renounce it. And this is a tough issue for Hillary. Why? Her husband in 1993 is the guy who passed NAFTA. And she, as Secretary of State, did a lot of work on this TPP. And Bernie Sanders, pressuring her from the left, got her to, start backing off, saying she has reservations about the trade pact that has to be improved, but not completely abandoning it. Now, I have been saying for a year that Donald Trump, one of his strengths is that he is a very different kind of Republican candidate. And indeed, one of the reasons that a lot of the hardline Republicans and traditional Republicans do not like Donald Trump is that he's not one of them. He has a mixture of positions. For example, he takes a much more liberal position than any Republican nominee in the last 30 years on Social Security and Medicare, saying they shouldn't be touched. That's the Democratic position. And by staking out this kind of stance on trade, I know the elites in both parties really, are in favor of globalization and free trade because the idea is that in a macro sense, it helps the American economy. That's debatable, but in a more micro sense, if you're a factory worker or somebody who is in an import-dependent or export-dependent industry, you could lose your job. Your company could shut down, go to Mexico. They could outsource the manufacturing to Thailand or Korea or China. And so in a very specific way, that's a gut issue for you. It's a bread and butter issue. And Trump has the ability by using trade to win over some working class folks who ordinarily would vote Democratic on this. And it sets up a clear contrast between him and the former Secretary of State. One more thing, the media consensus, as Donald Trump has had a few rough weeks, has been absolutely, you look at these polls and she's up 6 points, she's up 12 points, that this race is not quite over, but that Donald Trump is kind of hanging on by his fingernails. Well, the other day there was a poll by Quinnipiac showing Hillary Clinton leading by only 2 points. Now, maybe that's an outlier of a poll. Maybe the race is not as close as that, but it, I think, is going to have a psychological impact to cause some rethinking about whether Trump does have a shot at a time when he's now reading scripted speeches, when he has stopped, at least for the time being, insulting everybody he doesn't like, and seems to be running a more disciplined campaign, including on the issue of trade.